If you know me, you know that I cannot stop talking about my wax myrtles. I really love wax myrtles for privacy screening. Case in point, this one here, grown as a cutting that I stuck in the ground here just like a year and a half ago. I swear, it might have been last spring, but they just come up so quickly. You can shape and work with them and turn them into so many different things. This one's like a wall, if you can see here, going between the greenhouse and my little tunnel here and the loquat. You can walk all the way around it. I'm really going to grow it like a wall here. And I'm also going to grow parts of it to be a shade structure. But if you don't plan correctly with these, hint hint, I have not always done so, then they can have some problems. And I want to show you one of my problem plants today because it's very sad and I've got to deal with it and I don't like it. So let's go look at that one real quick. There are 3 wax myrtles in this frame right now. One of them's harder to see, but these 2 older ones are the oldest ones in the garden so far, and they're like maximum 3 years old, and I really love them, but I made some mistakes with them, and this is the one that I really made a mistake with, and I'm going to show you guys today how I'm dealing with it. But they're coming along really well. I mean, this one here is up around 9 feet or so tall and screens the church parking lot over there beautifully. Lots of privacy. But this one here, I cut back really heavily in preparation for letting go of this whole branch, and let's have a look at why that is. So we are down here in the undercarriage of this tree slash shrub now, and I wanted to show you what's going on here. So typically with these wax myrtles, a common problem that I've encountered, and I still am dealing with the learning curve about this today, is that they plant a bunch of cuttings in a pot because not all of them make it. And so, it's more profitable if you have a pot with some living things in it, rather than, setting up a pot and having it just be completely barren because the one cutting that you put in it died. So they put multiple cuttings in these pots, and usually many of them will be successful. And when you plant these, what you end up with, if you see here on mine, as I'm trying to untie a rope up above, I don't think y'all can see that in the frame right now, but is I had at least 3 individual plants in here that all got pretty big. And as I move this one, in fact, let me make sure you can really see that. So up above, that branch that's on the right, in the front right, recently in a storm fell over, and as you can see, it's really, really bad. In fact, I have to remove it, so I may as well just leave it on the ground now. But yeah, this one here, we will get in kind of close and look at it, look what happened with it, but let's go all the way back out. And now you see over here that this is what I came out here to one day, was this whole branch kind of hanging out in the airspace here that it didn't normally. And I was kind of shocked to see that. I was like, what the heck's happening here? And then once I really got in there, I realized, oh, well, it's one of those situations. So whenever branches grow really close together with each other and they don't graft together like they could potentially do, what you get is a weak point where usually one of these things is eventually going to fall over. And that's what I had happen here. So I have to let go of this whole section. I'm going to go ahead and chop some of the top first. Oh, it's so sad. So sad. The only thing that keeps me from losing my shit when having to do all this is knowing that I can turn the branches into something artistic and sculptural, or I can also mulch them. This one goes clear through to the other side of the fence. I'm going to try to cut as much of the root out as I can, because wax myrtles will do this lovely thing called root suckering, where if you cut a piece of their roots, they will just keep growing from the piece that's left. Ooh, this is a real difficult spot to cut because it's on the chain link. I can only use like an inch of the saw to cut it. I might have to do that in sections. Let's see here. And looks like we've got an anthill in here too. That makes it all that much more fun. I think I'm gonna try this from another angle. Okay, almost free. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, we are free. Finally. Seems I have another branch here, though. That's kind of tangled up and everything. Oh, okay. There it goes. All right, so. I've been waiting a few weeks to, oh no, I've got another root to cut. Let's see here. I've been waiting a few weeks to do this so that I can do it on camera. It's just been giving me lots of anxiety. Because I really need to get the remaining portion of the plant set up to replace this one in the airspace. So let's try to get a slightly closer look at what's going on here. So as I said, whenever you plant something, you got to be careful, especially with these wax myrtles, that you don't have plants butting up against each other, because what will happen is the big piece that I cut was nestled into this one here, and it wasn't able to grow any roots. It only had one big root that traveled off the back, and then it had one coming off of the side here. And so there's this little pocket where it had no support. So when that really big winds came along about a month ago when this first happened, that whole part of the tree began to lean forward. And so I have learned that lesson over the years, and now whenever I plant things, I try to make sure I only have one really good strong trunk. Even now, I've got to come do some little pruning in here to clear away some of these new sprouts, but I may have to leave some of them to replace that airspace. I'm not sure. I think I really have a pretty good one here and here, so I may actually go ahead and take off these ones. I do want it to remain somewhat clean down in the bottom, and I don't want branches growing through the fence and thickening up, because the church people typically leave me alone as long as I am not doing anything super crazy. And one of the crazy things that they don't like is branches growing through the fence, because they kind of freak out and worry about them, ruining the fence, which I don't care about that so much. I'll fix things like that, but let's see. Let me see if I can get this last one. Okay. All right, that's pretty well cleaned up. A few little sprouts on the sides here. This is the active growing season, so you gotta kind of watch for all these little things that grow. But now we have a really good foundation for these kind of couple of trunks that are left to kind of repopulate the airspace here. Let me pull back. It doesn't set me back too much to lose those, because a lot of this up here can grow quickly and really fill in that space. But I'm gonna clean up the little hole down there that was left in this one trunk and make sure that the other branches don't look too bad. There are a few other scenarios down here happening that aren't too great either, and I'll try to show those real quick before I close this video out. And then I'll show you another extreme case before I close the video out. But one of the things I try to watch for is anything with a really narrow angle. So if you look down at that, there's two here that are kind of concerning, but not terribly so. This one here, technically it is concerning and I shouldn't downplay it. And this one here. So any place where you've got this real tight angle and the plant is got this kind of this cavity here, that is a weak point in which the whole plant can break. So the big part there in the middle was kind of a really extreme case, and you could see it. You could see it very clearly there, you know, how bad that was. But these, you may think they look okay. Even me, I'm looking at this thinking, oh, this is fine. But really, in the long run, it may not be. I mean, I'm kind of torn because I think that these could grow together and be okay. But let me show you. This here is a Baccharis that is growing in the front yard. And this plant came up on its own naturally and isn't really ideal for landscape settings, but I'm trying to give them a chance to prove themselves. You know, they look like they'd be good privacy screening trees, and they do have pretty white flowers on them. They do go a bit bare in the winter time, but then they come back quickly and they look pretty nice. But you see, they have a very bad habit of growing these angles, and so they tend to snap. And this tree has snapped on me twice now, and it's not so great. Suffice it to say, this has been a pretty difficult lesson for me to learn, even as late as last fall. I was planting wax myrtles over here, and this one here I allowed to be planted with multiple trunks. Let's look at it real quick. So this is the one, and it's got a few things growing around it, so you have to forgive me. I've got a giant plantain here, but yeah, you can see that I've got multiple trunks on this one, and I've got to make some decisions before this gets too big. I'm probably going to just yank some of these off. Maybe I can replant them, but I'm going to pick like the strongest one and then let it live, and the other ones I'll just cut. There's some that are already dead. They usually pull out pretty quickly. That was a branch there. And then there's some that are doing okay, and then some that are really thin, and that's another dead one. So really there's not too much here, but this one here wants to kind of yank out of there. And if I strip the leaves and yank it out of there, I might have enough root for it to live. But yeah, the wax myrtles that have done the best here so far are the ones that I have planted from a cutting, where it's just one plant and I don't have all the competing stems up against each other. So as much as I love my wax myrtles, and there is a lot to love about them, because like, look at these. These are, I'm pretty sure I planted these last year very early, or maybe in the fall the previous year, and they weren't looking so good. But now this spring they're really filling out, and whereas before these were filling out so well, I've got, so here I'm standing in front of number 1 closest to you, and then there's number 2. And then there is actually number 3 and 4 here. And then on the outside of the fence, there's a 5th one. And then I have some others planted around as well. But these are growing in so well that whereas before they were growing in so well, you could not, what is in my shirt? That's scary. I'll deal with that later, and hopefully it's not an insect. Before, you could see all the way through to the neighbor's house across the way over there, and they could see into my house. Now you can't see anything. It's almost completely blocked out in combination with the wisteria here. So the wax myrtles are amazing. They're native. I really love them. but they do have some things you've got to be on the lookout for. Namely, if you have multiple cuttings in a pot, you probably need to take it down to one. And you can unweave them in the potting process and pull them apart and have 5 plants, you know, instead of just killing 4 of them and leaving one. But you got to take some kind of action, or you will be doing the sad work that I did today on the one over there. So I believe that's all that I wanted to talk about in this video. Plant wax myrtles if you live in the southern United States, because they're amazing native plants. And if you are lucky enough to get a female, you will also get the berries on them, which the birds like to eat. They are frequently visiting. I have these little warblers that visit. They're so cute. So yes, plant things, but also here is your fair warning of a thing to look out for. And I will see you in the next video.